I think that is the thing that e-commerce has to live up to and understand, because now suddenly the business is becoming much more critical in thinking it's not no longer just getting more traffic. Like Andrews talked about this morning, the market is saturated. You are not going to get more people to come online.
Yeah.
So now it's a competition about the people who are there, and not just about growing and getting more people there, right? So, and I think that change is something that people have to realize.
Yeah.
Saying that it's actually a completely different game than what it used to be. And you could have been really amazing in e-commerce 5 years ago. It doesn't help you anything today. My name is Steen. I'm a senior partner at IH Nordic, and in reality, I'm a analytics optimization application specialist. I make analytics do stuff. So I don't do implementations. It's not technical. It's turning data into value and money. I started out doing content for websites back in the days, and if you do content, you have to do usability. And then I was head of usability, and I was really frustrated with this being the ambassador for the user, because there was nobody being the ambassador for the business. So we started looking into, so how do you measure the business value of a website? And then we turned into that we had this data available about how people were using it. It was a really good point in opening a conversations with companies. And and because you could give them one really critical question, because the data doesn't make sense without this saying, so you invested, I don't know, €1 million in a website.
Mm-hmm.
What do you expect to get out of it? The website, all activities are basically an investment. So if you invest that money in a website,
Yep.
You must have some idea how you measure the return on the investment. It's not just like, well, it seemed like a good idea at the time. That's not the business rationale. And I know, like in your presentation, you talked about it, that we take decisions emotionally, and that also goes for B2B. And very often the answer we got was that, well, we have one because other people has one. Right? So it wasn't really a business decision to get the website. It was more like an emotional thing. Yeah. But just having that focus and making sure that they understood that this was actually something that needed to be focused so it could be rationalized. Saying, what is this? Why do we keep putting money into this? Because there would be fixed costs to this website forever. So why keep putting more money into it? And I think that was a good place to start in relations to actually understanding websites as businesses and not just as pamphlets or something. I think e-commerce has been too easy for a while. So in a sense, it's when we talk to a lot of e-commerce people, they're still looking at these double-digit growth, saying, yeah, for the last 10 years we've been doing at least 30% growth, and now this year we're going to do 40. And it's, what was the term, doing, we're trying to just continue things and not looking at reality around you, because you have this saying, yes, but because you could do it 5 years ago, it doesn't mean that you can do it today. What we see is that the market is basically saturated, right? The market is changing from people being in Denmark we have a term called colleagues. So it's not competitors because you're kind of colleagues, because the market is so big, so you're not really competing. They have moved from being colleagues to being competitors. And I think that is the thing that e-commerce has to live up to and understand, because now suddenly the business is becoming much more critical in thinking it's not no longer just getting more traffic. Like Andrews talked about this morning, the market is saturated. You are not going to get more people to come online.
Yeah.
So now it's a competition about the people who are there, and not just about growing and getting more people there. Right? So, and I think that change is something that people have to realize.
Yeah.
Saying that it's actually a completely different game than what it used to be. And you could have been really amazing in e-commerce 5 years ago. It doesn't help you anything today. What I did with my presentation was I promised it was seven KPIs you didn't know you should track in e-commerce, right? And in reality, they were all centered around your margin and how much you're making on the individual products. So are you making money or not? And it was opening up and really pushing back in relation to e-commerce as something fancy, because we're doing a lot of website optimization. We're doing a lot of what's it called, online marketing activities and measurements and stuff. And a lot of consultants like us, they go out and they tell people, yeah, I'll improve your bottom line. But the problem is that that's not what we do. We improve people's top line. People's bottom line is really defined by how they run their business. And this is old school business. It's just saying you have to negotiate with a supplier, you have to get some products, you have to keep it in stock, and you have to pack it and send it and do invoices and manage your house. This is the place, the difference between what you sell and how much it costs to run the operation. This is where your business is.
Yep.
And the only thing that improves your bottom line is by selling products with a margin that is high enough so it's higher than the cost of running the business. But very often, if you go to most systems today, they look at optimizing for turnover and stuff. But in reality, that could just be killing you as a business, because if I triple your sale of, I can triple anybody's conversion rate by lowering their price by 60%. Right?
Yeah.
It's not good business, but I just improved their conversion rate. And sometimes understanding that this is about money and being able to be a business in the long term, that's really important. Yeah, and we see it in markets where it's either very competitive products, or they have within their own inventory the ability to shift products, right? So the example could be like so if you're like a clothing brand, right? Then suddenly people can get the exact same product somewhere else at a cheaper price. The margins are decreasing, so it's becoming increasingly important to monitor them. But yeah, having other products in your inventory. So for instance, we have a customer that has sells basically identical products. So they will go in and suggest customers changing their product. So on a lifetime basis, they know it's customers that will come back and buy a product. So shifting them to a product with a higher margin that is basically identical. So Amazon does the same thing, basically, in the sense that they will go in and they will take resellers, and then they will exchange the resellers' products with Amazon products, because they make a better margin on that. So I think one of my slides was basically this traditional model about having acquisition as a cost and then profit afterwards. And I think that as an industry, we're way too focused on acquisition and not enough focused on lifetime value. There's a shift going on now. We feel a lot of attention to the lifetime value, but people are still really insecure about how to tackle it, because I think the attribution question about what channels did I get in, and now they're still focused on acquisition because they don't understand where people are coming from. So it defocuses them, and I think it's also part of the issue is that if you talk to people here, right, a lot of them will say they are digital marketeers, and as a marketeers, we don't like to talk about sales, because sales, that's kind of the other guys, right? They're looking at the fast money, just in it for the buck, and has to make a profit. But so we have some KPIs. We're not really addressing the elephant in the room about profit and lifetime value, because we rather talk about, let's do a creative campaign, bringing in more people and making people, more aware of our brand and stuff, right? So we see a shift and much more interest in the lifetime value, because people are starting to hurt on earnings. They're expecting to grow a lot, and they cannot grow a lot anymore. So now they have to focus on the business. It's really simple, because it's about segmentation, right? It's understanding the users you have, in the sense that we see a lot of people running their business like when you talk about this, you have the customer journey. And just saying customer journey in singular is actually where the first problem is, right? Because it's not one customer journey, you actually have multiple customer journeys. Also, and some of them will overlap, and some of them you can cluster, and you will have similar patterns. But it's very few organizations, if you look at it on a lifetime basis, that just have one process.
Yeah.
And we tend to underestimate the complexity of the customer if we just set things up to having we have marketing automation, one sequence. So after 3 weeks, we send people one mail, and then after 6 weeks, we send them another mail, but just this thing, the people are much more complex than that, and the way we buy is much more complex than that. So until we can meet the customers on their own terms, it's going to be a challenge. And I think we had a conversation with this a long time ago about A/B testing. That A/B testing is in reality, we're killing our own business by doing A/B testing, in the sense that every time we go in and we say, yeah, version A is better than B, so we remove B. But in reality, it should be a segmentation issue. So what I find out that a part of my users prefer version A and a part prefer version B, but by throwing version B out, I'm actually also throwing all the people out who prefer version B, right? So having this focus on saying the technology is so good now, so it's not a either or, it's an and. So in reality, that the objective would be saying, yes, we need to build relations with everybody coming in. And we need to build relations with everybody coming in because we can match their need and address them on a personal basis. So I see personalization as kind of the key thing in building the relationship with people. But to personalize, you need to know who people are, and segmentation is kind of the first step toward personalization. It's like pseudo-personalization, because it's not really personal, but if it's close enough, you're not going to notice.